Everybody, welcome in to another episode of the NFL Seekers podcast. Today, we're going to be doing a fun one. We're going to be ranking our top five dynasty running back rankings, essentially just our, top five NFL draft running back rankings. And we lied in the title. We'll actually be the top six. We'll give you guys a little bonus. We'll give you some honorable mentions as well. And we both have very different lists. So we do have a lot of running backs to talk about today. It should be a long one. So excited for how you, Josh.
I'm doing really good. Running backs, for dynasty, for fantasy, for the draft, it's fun. These guys are super valuable. They're one of the most valuable positions for fantasy football. In real NFL football, for whatever reason, they're a devalued position, which I will never understand. But in this year's running back draft class, I think there's a lot of really good guys, but there's not a lot of high end Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan Robinson. That's kind of the consensus right now. Is all these guys are kind of lumped into some kind of group, and it's kind of like it's going to be a wait and pick. Like somebody's like waiting for the first person to go off the board in this running back draft, and then the domino effect should fall. But like it's going to be interesting to see how far in the draft we go until we get our first running back. It's not going to be like last year we had two in the top 12, which is an anomaly, but it's going to be fun.
That's kind of crazy to think about looking back on. I didn't even realize that I got two top 12 running backs. I don't know the next time we'll see that, but it will be interesting to see when the first one goes off the board. I'll get into my running back one because I'm pretty confident it's going to be Jonathan Brooks. I think it's a matter of when Jonathan Brooks goes off the board, what team will take the shot at him to be like their starter, and then a bunch of running backs are going to fly off the board after that. All of these guys are kind of bunched in. It was really hard to rank these running backs. First of all, they're hard to decipher them all. They are kind of bunched in into tiers, but I personally have Jonathan Brooks in his own tier. You just barely spoke about Bijan. He sat behind Bijan and Roschon Johnson for a few years at Texas. Finally, waited his turn this year and completely broke out. Incredible production, and I think he's Aaron Jones day one. I really do just think that he's Aaron Jones. The concern with Jonathan is he did tear his ACL in November, and that's scary. I think the team that drafts him will have to have another running back in there just until he gets fully healthy. You don't want to rush a rookie in there or anything, but he has such an explosive first step. He has great elusiveness, just bounce, and he moves in short areas so quickly. It's honestly special. Best vision in the class to me outside of Blake Corum as well. I can't think of any negatives with Jonathan Brooks, really. He has insane change of direction, wiggle for being 216 pounds. It doesn't really look like he's a bigger built running back. He's a very natural receiver as well, which is kind of where I get that Aaron Jones comp. And yeah, I just really like him. He had to sit behind Bijan, and he didn't have the best production until this year until he tore the ACL. So it, it's an interesting projection, but I am pretty confident when healthy, he is the best running back in this class. How do you feel
I,
about it?
I really like Jonathan Brooks. He is an absolute stud. His tape was really, really fun. You really only get 1 year of that and not even a full year. And then that ACL is just the scare. Any running back tearing their ACL, you just never know truly how they're going to recover. But if he looks like he did before he tears that ACL, going into the NFL, he's going to be electric, man. I mean, he's only 20 years old as of right now. He will be 21 going into his rookie season, but a young running back. And just the sky's the limit for potential. And I'm just gonna throw this out there because I know it's gonna happen. I think the Dallas Cowboys will be the first ones to take a running back in the second round, and I think it will be Jonathan Brooks. He's not, however, my number one running back, but he is a damn awesome stud, and I can see him staying in Texas and going to the Cowboys.
Yeah, that's a perfect transition into Dynasty because another reason I have him as my number one in his own tiers because I'm pretty confident he's going to get drafted into the best situation. He's most likely going to be the first running back taken off the board, so that means the team will, place him into that starting role pretty quickly until right as he's healthy. So if he goes to the Cowboys, GG, it's over. He's going to be a insane dynasty piece. He's going to be just good. I truly think he's Aaron Jones day one as a rookie. So take that for what you will. Really like Jonathan Brooks. Like I said, he completely broke out in his first year starting this year, 91.4 grade, 1,135 yards and 10 touchdowns before going down with that torn ACL could have had even better production. So really love Jonathon. Looks like he will be healthy around training camp, which is huge.
Yeah, no, he's going to be a fantastic player. And yeah, from a dynasty perspective, if he lands himself on the Cowboys, man, he might be the first overall pick. He might be the first overall pick for dynasty drafts. So look out for that. He's going to be a fun, electric, exciting player. Kind of has that, like you've already gone into depth, but the receiving ability, the running ability. He fits a gap or zone run scheme, so he's kind of scheme proof. And yeah, I mean, it's too bad what happened to him with the ACL, and hopefully a full recovery is going to happen, and he doesn't lose any steps or anything.
Yep. Jonathan Brooks, the perfect mesh of size, speed, and strength in today's NFL. No doubt he's going to be a good starting running back. With that, do you want to go into your number two? Or
Yeah,
sorry, your number one.
my number one, yes, who's just awesome. It's going to be Mr. Jaylen Wright from Tennessee. This guy, man, turn on his tape. He is just when you look at Jaylen Wright, it's explosiveness, and he's explosive for a big back. I mean, he's 5'11", 210 pounds, 20 years old, a true junior. Every single year, I always look to see and watch their tape. You go year to year to year. Every single year he improved. He went from a 72 grade to an 80 grade to a 91 grade this year, improving in every single category. I think this guy is the most explosive runner in the draft. He absolutely lit up the combine with a 4.3840, one of the fastest times there. Sorry, was it a 4.34? It was one of the
Four,
two.
three, eight.
Oh, 4.3. Okay, I was right the first time. But yeah, and a guy who I think could be very electric in the passing game. But yeah, I mean, he's a he's a bruiser, and he's a big guy who's just incredibly explosive. Um, and I project him. I think both run, for run scheme, both gap and zone, he will just thrive in. He's a guy with not a lot of miles on him too. Yeah, 20 years old right now, going to be 21 in his rookie season. But yeah, I mean, it's the explosiveness that really excites me. And the force miss tackle rate and everything is just at an elite level for Mr. Jaylen Wright.
Athletic freak. Jaylen Wright is my RB2. Perfect transition. Love him as well. Like you said, just so explosive. He had that 11-2 broad jump, which is in the 100th percentile of running backs. He had the 38 vertical jump, which is in the 80th percentile, and yeah, 4.38. So he is just explosive. All those explosive metrics are off the chart. He had the fastest 55-meter dash in the country when he was in high school, by the way. So he does have that track and field experience, and you can see it. He has devastating cuts and just footwork, and he really was one of the best backs in the country in pass protection as well, which is valuable. And I think a reason both of us have him up here is because he can be a three-down workhorse, workload, starting running back in the NFL. We can just project him as that. And he does bounce. That's one thing, is he is an explosive freak, but man, he is a bouncer. I think he's maybe overconfident in that athleticism because he could be in college, and he just bounced against anyone, and it worked because he was faster than everyone. I think in the NFL he will need to be a little bit more patient, develop some better vision. But overall, I really like Jaylen. The production scares me as well. I don't really understand why he was so unproductive, only having I mean, 897 rushing yards and 9 rushing touchdowns. It's not terrible, but it was worse in 2022, and it was honestly worse than most of the running backs we're going to talk about today. So that is the one thing kind of that I was questioning with Jaylen Wright. It's just the production. Like, why wasn't he as productive?
I would say Tennessee's offensive line was not the greatest watching
Yeah.
him. Yeah, and that was not the greatest, but yeah, you would like to see a little bit. I mean, he only scored 4 touchdowns in 2023, which is scarce, and he's not the most natural receiver. I feel like he has it, but it's just not as natural as you'd like it to be.
Yeah.
But I mean, what do you have his RAS score pulled up? Was it like a 9.98 or something, almost like the perfect RAS score?
Give me a second and I'll pull it up.
Yeah, I mean in every metric, everything, from size to speed to vertical. I mean, just everything is there for the guy. But yeah, I want to know what his RAS score, because I think it was the best, and it was in the top percentile like ever, out of since 19 whatever, whenever they started doing that.
Yep. So it was a 9.75, and it was the 44th best running
Oh,
back percentile ever. So yeah, definitely solid. He did kill the combine, and honestly, the combine is what rose him up my stocks or my board so much. It's just because it was harder to have the projection without the production, but the combine kind of just checked all the boxes. He really does have all the physical tools, and he just looks like a workhorse running back, man, more than these other guys, honestly.
100%, yeah. And I feel like the explosiveness really going to translate to the NFL at an awesome level. So just super excited to see where he ends up. I'd love to see him on my Chargers paired with Mr. Gus Bus Edwards. I think it'd be an incredible 1-2 punch. But yeah, that's my bias. And if he did end up there, man, with Greg Roman, I feel like that would be a fantastic fit and a good complementary running back. And a guy he can, eventually take over from Gus Edwards.
Yeah, I know he's definitely someone you're wanting. Yeah, and like a good transition into dynasty. He goes to the Chargers. He's probably their number one guy and a perfect complement to Gus. So keep an eye out on his situation because uh, I think there's a few like honestly, not many bell cow running backs in this class. He might be one of very few. So if you can get one of those pieces in dynasty, it's very valuable. With that, we'll move on to Stores' RB2.
Yes, sir. Mr. Braelon Allen, 6'2", 245 pounds of this absolute train running at you. A guy who is just peaking his surface. He is 20.1 years old. He is 20 years old in 1 month. So one of the youngest players going into this draft. But man, if you're looking, for an absolute bruiser, a mauler, a guy who you handed off for those tough yards, a guy that's going to pick up the linebackers in pass protection, and just a guy who has so much to develop into, and has a really good track record. For almost, I mean, so almost 3 straight years of 1,000 yards at Wisconsin. So he has the playing time. In each of those years, he scored multiple touchdowns. So he was 12, 11, 12. And I think he's just peeking his surface, man. And this is a guy you want on your team. This is a guy that linebackers and people are scared to tackle. He's a big body, almost like Derrick Henry in that sense. I wouldn't say he's quite the athlete as Derrick Henry is quite. I mean, he's pretty nimble, but I mean, I
He's
don't know.
pretty
I don't know.
nimble.
Yeah, he is pretty nimble for a guy who's 250 pounds. But that was honestly, kind of my comp for him was Derrick Henry. I mean, that's a very generous comp because Derrick Henry is going to go down as one of the greatest running backs of all time. But man, this guy, the floor or the ceiling is the limit for him. And you put him in, the right system, he's going to absolutely thrive. And in a fantasy aspect, I love this guy on the goal line. I love this guy. He's going to get all your red zone touches. He gets me giddy. He gets me super giddy talking about him. But one of my favorite athletes in this entire draft class, Mr. Braelon Allen, who you're going to get him at a value, man. I think he's projected right now third, fourth round. And he's just young, man. He's just young, and the size is there, and he's sneakily fast, yeah, for 250 pounds.
Yeah, you said he was a freak. He was on Bruce Feldman's freak list in 2022 for power cleaning, an absurd amount, like 600 pounds. I'm not gonna guess what the amount was on the spot, but he is just a freak. He's like AJ Dillon, but a good running back and way more nimble. I went into his tape expecting him to be AJ Dillon because of his size, and he literally is Derrick Henry. Like I was getting so many Derrick Henry vibes just watching him, and he runs away from people. He makes good cuts and good runs. And for Dynasty, he is so fun because he's more of a projection. He's like you said, he just barely turned 20, but man, he has so much upside. He's going to be taken higher than these guys. He's going to be pushed up boards because of that age. There's not a lot of you know, wear and tear on his body. So that's huge for running back, what the position's kind of moving to right now. And yeah, I think it's just going to be a good dynasty piece. Whoever drafts him is going to have a plan for him, and he's probably
Give
going
him
to.
a fit, Dan. Throw him out there. Throw him out there for a team that you would like to see him on because he could be fun. I think given the right system.
Dude, give me the Ravens. Just get him behind Derrick Henry for
Oh,
2 years.
oh, you gotta love it, man. You gotta love to
I
see
got
it.
one more too.
Would
Give me the
be
Colts, who just lost Zach Moss behind Jonathan Taylor,
oh,
Wisconsin legends.
oh. Oh my God. Well, dude, the Ravens, that would be sick. That would be probably one of the scariest backfields you've ever seen. Two I mean, you just have two monsters. I mean, if you're a corner and these guys are both running at you from the outside, I'm hitting that old. I'm not even trying to wrap up. I'm going shoulder to the knees to the legs. I'm just trying to trip them, and I'm probably getting thrown 5 yards forward.
No, he's so fun. He's going to be good. He's going to be valuable in Dynasty. So push him up your Dynasty board. That's why we have him higher on our rankings. I'll be honest, he is my RB7, and it's more I'm just in love with so much running backs. I wanted to highlight a few of these guys at the end. I moved Braelon down my board, but he still could easily be top five. He's in the same tiers like all these guys I'm going to talk about. Love Braelon. Really excited about his Dynasty upside. Anything else you want to say on him?
Now let's move on to your number three, Dan.
All right, we'll move on to my number three running back. It's going to be Trey Benson out of Florida State, the transfer from Oregon. Absolute track star, and it definitely shows up on tape. He ran a 4.39 at the combine, and he just has crazy, crazy speed and acceleration. It's at the top of the class, and it's difference making. It's why I have him as a top three running back, is because his burst really is home run game changing and difference making. I think he's going to be that type of running back. He's incredible stop start and movement skills. He can convert his speed to power really nicely with his size, especially. He's really good. Um, this is another bouncer. I'll be honest. I wouldn't say he's good on the inside. He loves the bounce runs, but when he does run on the inside, he's just got good short movement skills and short area movement skills. And I just really like what I see. He reminds me of Jonathon Taylor. He's 6'2", 216. He's pretty built, has some size to him, but he still can, move really well, break away from a defense, run away. And yeah, I would say that my biggest weakness on him is he is another bouncer. There's a lot of bouncers in this class, but he loves the run away from wide open inside holes. His tape is frustrating. There's another guy we'll talk about a little bit later, but he loves to just run away from inside open holes and bounce it on the outside. And it worked for him at Florida State a lot because at the college level, it will work for these freak athletes. But yeah, it's definitely something I'm going to need to see him work on as his vision. And I have him as RB3 because he has the tools. If he can get into a good situation, a good running back coach, get some more patience, he's going to maximize himself and be a freak.
Yeah, he actually ended up being my funny Braelon Allen is your running back seven. He's my running back seven. Just missed it. But I mean, I kind of felt bad for the guy because again, Florida State's offensive line was so bad. So this guy was dodging people in the backfield. I mean, his like 2 yard runs were actually really impressive. And just a guy you take a flyer on. I mean, he is a big bodied back, 6 foot, 220. I don't think he had the best combine. I can't remember it off the top of my head what his numbers ended up being, but a super,
He ran a
exciting.
4.39, which is nice, but everything else
Okay.
was
Okay, yeah. I felt like I remember him being good in one area and then kind of lacking in another. But a guy you take a flyer on, he's gonna be your third, fourth round pick is kind of where he's projected to go right now. But given the right system again, like I hate to say this because it's hard to think of teams for running backs, because I feel like it's just hard, because there's so many running backs. But again, why do the Cowboys just keep coming to mind? They're like the only team I feel like that genuinely needs a running back.
they're like the last team that hasn't filled in their starting running back yet.
Right. Yeah. I mean, maybe Cincinnati would be a really good fit for him. They obviously brought in Zach Moss, lost Joe Mixon. I don't think Zach Moss is definitely the answer. I could see them definitely going, for one of these flyer running backs, but a guy I really, really like. And yeah, given the right situation, I mean, hell, maybe he kind of gives me a little bit of Joe Mixon vibes, honestly. So, I mean, I really, really like that fit for Cincinnati. I've just talked myself into something great. So if he goes to Cincinnati, he's gonna be awesome.
No, he kind of does have that Joe Mixon build, but he's a little bit more athletic with some better acceleration. So I do like that. Yeah, like the Colts, Bengals, like that thought. Do you want to move on to your RB3? Anything else?
Yeah, let's move on to my RB3, who you'll get mixed emotions about. Oh, sorry, I thought I had somebody else, but yes,
I
it
guess
is
we already
Mr.
talked about him.
Yes, it is. I was already thinking of my RB4, but yes, Mr. Jonathan Brooks, one of the best athletes in the entire, running back class. And yeah, just wasn't for that ACL. There's not too much more to talk about. We really already did an in-depth analysis on Mr. Jonathan Brooks, but give him to the Cowboys. He's my first dynasty pick.
Very valuable dynasty piece in Jonathan Brooks. My opinion, Aaron Jones as a rookie day one. We'll go into my RB4. It's Isaac Guerendo out of Louisville.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely love him. He's been a my guy and he killed the combine. That's kind of the discussion with Isaac Guerendo here is He's 6'1", 225. He ran the fastest 40 among running backs at a 4.33. He had the highest vertical among running backs at a 41.50, and he had the second best broad jump behind Jaylen Wright, and he's 6'1", 225. So he has the workhorse bell cow build, and he ran freakish numbers. The explosiveness isn't really there, but he just has that long speed. He has a stride. He's a bigger guy. And like I said, he is a transfer from Wisconsin, transferred away, dodged Braelon Allen. So maybe that could be a negative on him. Maybe I'm pretty bold having him over Braelon Allen on my list, but I think he's Isaiah Pacheco day one. I think he comes into the league and any good situation, he's going to be a really productive running back, and he's just relentless. He's a hard runner, runs like Pacheco. Obviously, no one runs as hard as Pacheco, but he does have that style of running. He loves running in between the tacklers. He's not a bouncer like some of these other guys. So he's someone I really love. Wanted to highlight him at the top of the list, and I think he's probably going to go early day 3. He could sneak into the third round, but I think he's worth third round. I think he's bunched in with all these other running backs we talked about earlier.
Yeah, he was a late round sleeper flyer for a lot of guys. I watched a sleeper podcast with tell me, Dan, he's the guy that works for the Chargers now. I should know off the top of
Brett
my head.
Coleman.
Yeah, Brett Coleman did an episode on Isaac Guerendo, and it was like he's like, this is my late round sleeper guy. And then I watched another podcast. He's like, well, never mind on that because this guy just tested off the charts. I think this is who had the was he the one that had the 9.98 RS score? I think it was him. I think I was getting him confused with Jaylen.
Yes, I think he had like the sixth best ever for running back.
Yeah, and it was just eye-popping incredible. And yeah, this guy just worked himself up a couple of rounds in the draft with how he just performed. And with that size, those measurable that traits, man, he's gonna be somebody's gonna take him early. I have a good feeling he's gonna he maybe even go back end round 2 because that is just the athletic traits and the things that you draft because you can't teach that kind of stuff. You can't teach being 220 pounds and running a 4.34. It's just unheard of. So Isaac Guerendo, an absolute sleeper out of Louisville, a guy who just didn't make my list, but a polarizing prospect, man. And hell, put him on the Dolphins, man. Put him on the Dolphins. Let's keep the speed going over there in Miami. Raheem Mostert's getting old. You have Devon Achan and Guerendo, and you got the fastest running back and the fastest wide receiver tandems in the NFL. Let's keep the trend going, man. I'd love to see him in Miami. They'd use him awesomely.
Yep, push him up your dynasty boards because a lot of people aren't going to be familiar with him. So you can definitely get him out of steal. That's another reason I want him higher on my list is because I think he's going to be a very valuable asset in fantasy in general. It could be an Isaiah Pacheco type piece for you. And if you are watching on YouTube, I'm going to put his RAS score on the screen right now because it's comical. He has a 9.99 RAS score. Perfect.
Perfect. It's perfect.
Everything is green. The second best for a running back in history. I don't know who the first is. Let's see if they said. Edgerrin James is the only running back to have a better RAS score than Isaac Guerendo. So yeah, just crazy.
Not
I'll put his
bad.
RAS score on here.
Not bad. That's not a bad running back to be comp to right there, man. That's good company right there. Yeah, watch out for Isaac Guerendo, man. The traits are there. All the stuff you can't teach is there. So, he's gonna be a fun prospect, and given the right circumstances, the right situation, he could be fun, man. Give him like a Miami, San Francisco type of thing. It'd be awesome.
Yep, put him on your radar. If he goes into one of those track team zone offenses, it's over. So that, do you want to go into your RB4?
Yes, and this is kind of a controversial one. I kind of go back and forth with it, but Mr. Blake Corum, a guy who was kind of the consensus one and is kind of fallen, but an older running back. This guy is 23, going on 24. A guy with a lot of mileage on him. He had an injury 2 years ago. He seemed to have kind of lost a step, but I mean, he played at Michigan. He was one of their best players. He scored 27 touchdowns this year to go along with 1,200 yards. The year previously scored four, or he had 1,461 yards, 18 touchdowns the year before, 1,000 yards, 11 touchdowns. I mean, just ultimate production, man. And just I do really like his build. He's 5'8", 213, low to the ground, low center of gravity. But his age and his injury history and his mileage are what scare me. But the production and the football player he is, It does not scare me. I think he's an ultra clean prospect. I think he's got incredible feet. I think he's got incredible balance. He's good in pass protection. He's good in the receiving game. Um, but yeah, I mean, this is where it gets tough because he is older. When you move on to his second contract, he's gonna be 27, 20 or 28 years old. So that's kind of where the running backs die. So you're really just getting him for like a 4-year rental and a guy with tons of mileage on him. But I mean, he's a damn good 4-year rental. But yeah, he scares me, but he's an incredible prospect with incredible production in his college career. And I don't know, Dan. I don't know. He scares me, man. That's all I have to say. But I'd feel sad if I didn't put him on this list just because the production is so crazy.
First of all, if anyone's wondering why JJ McCarthy doesn't have the production of Drake May and Caleb Williams, it's because this guy had 27 touchdowns. Like, yeah, that's just absurd. That's just so crazy. But
Insane, bro. It's like LT's. That's like LT's. That's got to be like a college record, right, for a running back? Maybe not. Maybe because Derrick Henry and those guys played in college, but like, you know,
insane.
I
That's
mean,
insane. 27 touchdowns. They play like 11 games, but yeah, that's just crazy stuff. He is the most like polarizing running back in this class, I would say, pretty easily. He's got the highest floor, or right around the highest floor with Jonathan Brooks. He's easily the smartest running back in the class, probably the smartest running back I've ever seen, ever scouted. He plays like a quarterback. He sees the field so well. I've never seen him make the wrong read. I watched like 6 or 7 games of him. Didn't see him make a wrong read. I don't know if he ever has.
he's
Uh,
not Najee Harris. Let's just say that.
he doesn't have the
He's not
Najee,
Najee Harris.
doesn't
He's
have
the
that Najee
opposite of
vision.
Najee Harris.
A little bit better vision than Najee Harris, and he's like the Le'Veon Bell vision. Actually, he's the other
Yeah.
Steelers guy. He's so patient, got crazy spatial awareness, and when he's in tight spaces, he can accelerate really quickly. Actually, for not having those high end traits, he does accelerate oddly fast. It is kind of weird. Like he almost accelerates at like the top of the class. I think he had like the fastest 10-yard shuttle in the class, but everything else he just had terrible numbers. So yeah, the high end athleticism is what pushes him down boards. He's my RB8 just because, like I said, really excited about some of these guys with more upside. But I acknowledge if you're a win now team in Dynasty, will move on to Dynasty, take him, push him way up your board because he's gonna be starting most likely in a situation he goes to. If he goes to the Chargers, he might be the number one running back in Dynasty
Yeah, I think
automatically.
he's just a plug and play running back. There's no developing. The experience is there, but he's got to get the right system. But yeah, I mean, actually, he'd fit in any system. He's brilliant. He's smart. He can do anything. He's one of the smartest running backs. Plug him into any system, he will thrive. I don't care which team he is on. But yeah, you're right. You take him high in dynasty because he's ready to rock and roll.
And if you're not win now in Dynasty, you take him off your board completely. If you're rebuilding, you don't even go after this guy. There's other running backs to go after. But yeah, moral of the story: insanely high floor, low upside player who's insanely smart. Is such a good running back with some of the best vision you'll ever see, and he is fun. He's gonna score for you.
Yeah, awesome running back. Again, man, I'll say it. Best fit, obviously, Greg Roman and Jim Harbaugh. Bring him to the Chargers, but it is tough wanting to take him because he is older. He had an injury 2 years ago. He seems to be a step slower. I would honestly say from 2 years ago. I think it was his best tape, even though he was a touchdown machine this year. But I really like the player, man. I think a real class act, a real high character guy, a team leader. And yeah, coming off a national championship, so you love the pedigree there. You love everything about it, but the age and the injury concern.
Yeah, I mean, one last thing is he did have that meniscus tear, but you saw him get better weekly. Like it was visible. You could see him like get better by the end of the year. He was almost like
He's at
insane.
his best. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
he
In
really
the
was.
playoffs, he was insane. In the playoffs, he was perfectly healthy. You could tell. Like he might just be healthy fully now.
Yeah, and you love to see it. And Jim Harbaugh, you know this guy better than anyone. Bring him to the Chargers, baby. Just pair him with Gus. I mean, you could do any of these running backs. They're all so fun. But yeah, bring Corum in, man. Bring a little Michigan Wolverine back to us. We're the Los Angeles Wolverines, and let's keep it that way, man.
It's the easiest, obvious fit. If it happens, you move him way up your dynasty board. But with that, we'll move on to my RB5. It's Ray Davis out of Kentucky, an absolute beast. He has a cool story. He's a pretty underrated guy, first of all, that no one really talks about this guy, but he was really productive in the SEC. Has a really cool story. Has 10 siblings. He was homeless at the age of 12, and just had a hard struggle to get to where he is right now. So really relentless guy. He doesn't take anything for granted. You can tell he runs so hard. He runs like a menace. And the reason I have him as my RB5 and this higher than you'll probably see anywhere, is he just feels like a starter to me. He's another one of these guys that just looks like a number one, three down, bell cow almost back. And he's got incredible vision, which is another thing that is just valuable in the three down back role. He also has incredible pass blocking. You can tell like he's a stout, sizable guy. He's built. He's got that sturdy build, and I guess he's only 5'9", but he's 215, so he's got that stout build, and yeah, just super strong frame. Tough to bring him down. He runs really hard. He's got really good vision too. So I just think he's a smart, all around good runner. And week 5 against Florida, that was a fun game to watch of his. He got up to 21.7 miles per hour, which was one of the fastest times clocked in college football. He also had a 91.4 PFF grade. He absolutely balled out versus Florida. And yeah, I would say like the one weakness is like long speed, high end, like explosiveness and traits. But I think he's good enough to work. I think he's like perfectly fine to be a good starting running back in the NFL. I guess I project him as a starter. And I didn't even mention that he's a pretty good receiver. He had 7 receiving touchdowns last year, which led all running backs in college football. And he's not a receiving back at all. So pretty impressive.
Yeah, no, Ray Davis is a fun prospect. I first heard of him at the Senior Bowl because he was a standout there, one of the angriest runners they said, and just a guy who's built kind of like a bowling ball. Um, I know he's bigger than Ray Rice, but somebody kind of compared him to Ray Rice's playing style, which I thought was kind of an interesting, cool comp. Ray Rice, legend of the game, legend on and off the field of the game.
Got the
Um,
same name too.
yeah, Ray. The Ray goes insane. But I wanted to give two comps that I'd kind of like to see him. I'd like to see like Arizona. I thought would be a really fun fit for him, and then Buffalo. Just like two teams that could use a power runner like him. Just want to throw those two teams out. I'd love to see Ray Davis, a late round pick to one of those guys. But yeah, a guy who I do need to watch a little bit more tape on, but has definitely risen his stock throughout the process, and I'm glad you put him on here and put him on the map for our seekers guys.
Yeah, and like you said, for Dynasty, if he goes to the Bills or Cardinals, he can, for the Cardinals, be that James Conner replacement eventually. If he goes to the Bills, he's a perfect complement to James Cook day one. He could be a pretty relevant piece for you, actually, like what Latavius Murray was last year. So really like that. Love Ray Davis. Got quick feet for how big he is. He's nimble, and I just think he's going to be a good starter. So I think he's a good Dynasty piece to have. With that, do you want to go into your RB5?
Yeah, a guy who again not many people are kind of talked about, kind of fallen asleep throughout the process. Mr. Dillon Johnson from the Washington Huskies, a guy who played on one of the best college football teams this year, and was just no. I mean, I wouldn't say he's great at anything, but he's good at everything. Kind of that jack of all trades, master of none. But he's a good runner. He's good in the passing game. He's good in pass protection. But he's just not elite at anything. But yeah, I mean, a guy who I loved his production. He's a big runner. I mean, there's a lot of big running backs in this. I mean, 6 foot, 220 pounds, a junior, good build, but just a really, really good running back who I'm for the life of me, I can't figure out why people don't like him a lot.
Yeah, I would say I watched a lot of Washington football this year. One thing that stands out about Dillon Johnson is he has a knack for finding the end zone. If he's in a goal line situation, he will get the touchdown. He is a touchdown machine, and he just has really good vision. He's a really smart back. My like overall write up on him is Johnson's a decent all around athlete, but lacks a difference making trait for him to kind of stand out. He's kind of just kind of there. I feel like he doesn't have the high end speed, doesn't have the high end receiving chops. He doesn't have the inside outside like explosiveness. So I don't know what his like go to would be. In that 4.68 is kind of what brings him down my board. He is my RB12. I'll be honest, just because of that
Right.
4.68, and I love a lot of backs. But I think he's like a good all around just back. I think he could be like a third down back.
That is a brutal timing. 4.68, not that good. You'd like to see that lower, that 4.5 and lower for a running back. But yeah, like I said, he's kind of the jack of all trades, a master of none kind of guy. He has a fierce, stiff arm. decent. I mean, he's got good speed, but it's not that long speed. He's got a good burst to him, but he will get chased down. But yeah, he's just kind of that solid all-around running back who, I think can be a really good day one starter. I think he can be a three down back. I think he can be your bruising back. He has a knack for the end zone. Every single year he's improved. This was obviously his breakout year in 2023, an 88.3 grade, 14 games played. 1,189 yards and 16 touchdowns. He didn't have much in the passing game, but I don't feel like that's kind of the way Michael Penix was playing. And you have to compete with a lot of really good receivers over there at Washington to get any targets. Obviously, you had Rome, Jalen Polk, Jalen McMillan. So, obviously wasn't used a lot, but I think he's, a very underrated pass protector.
100%. Yeah, he's just kind of a good all-around running back. He just has a feel. He has a feel for the game. He's got a high IQ. I like him. He's gonna have a good home somewhere and be a good role player. With that, let's go into my RB6. Someone I really, really love. Someone I'm excited to talk about, and that's Sione Vaki out of Utah. One of our guys. We've been hyping him up all this offseason process. I would say he's the most intriguing and versatile player in this class, the most interesting man in this class of Shohei Ohtani of baseball. Interesting come up, first of all. He, in high school, he was a star slot receiver, running back, safety, linebacker, quarterback, kicker, punter. Went on a 2-year church mission. So he only has 2 years of college experience at Utah. But man, he's electric. He started out as a safety, played safety for the 2 years. But they moved him to running back this year. I'll just say he something about him. He moves different. He moves, I would say, almost better than every single one of these running backs that we've talked about today. He just has a different like athleticism, different feet, different foot speed. I can't even explain it. As a receiver out of the backfield, he's probably the best in the class. He had a 94 PFF grade and as as a running back in his 1 year as a running back, and he has insane receiving chops. He actually specializes as a receiver. And I just want to show some highlights because this guy's a freak. I get excited to talk about him. So I'm going to show some receiving highlights of this guy because that's kind of what the selling point of this guy is. It's just impossible to stay with this guy downfield because his cuts are crazy. He runs crazy Texas routes, first of all. So if you just put this guy out there as a receiving back, he's going to run crazy Texas routes like this one right here at the Senior Bowl, where all the scouts at the Senior Bowl and Combine really wanted to see him play at running back because he just got the feel. You can just see it when he plays running back. He just excels. There's this highlight against Washington in a really big game for Utah where he runs away from the entire Washington defense. This Washington defense was pretty good this year, went all the way to the national championship, and here's Vaki just completely running away from him. He has that legit like breakaway from a defense speed, and he's a super good safety too. So he has good contact balance. He's a physical, just good runner. I really love Sione, man. I don't know how about you feel about Vaki. Don't know where you have him, if you even have him ranked as a running back on your list. But I love him. I think he's going to be a good running back if someone gives him a chance.
Yeah, Sione Vaki, electric, man. Just a guy who's the athlete's athlete of the draft. I mean, he is an athlete. If you look at Sione Vaki, he's probably the best athlete in this entire draft class. I was actually at the game. I got the tickets from you for the Utah California Golden Bears game where it was kind of Sione Vaki's running back coming out game. And all of a sudden, second quarter comes around and like, who the hell is this guy? What? Obviously, we knew him as a safety, but I'm like, who's that playing running back right there? I couldn't even tell from the number or anything. But then I see Sione Vaki and he's running an 80-yard touchdown on the film. I'm like, not the safety? I'm like, is that Sione Vaki, the safety? But yeah, just talk about a guy that understands leverage, understands angles, and just is a football IQ is off the charts, man. I mean, this guy has a feel for every single position. He's a damn good safety. I think given another year at Utah, he'd probably be one of the top running backs if they played him there coming out of next year's draft class. But I mean, you're drafting in just an athlete right here, and he's going to go pretty high. Somebody's going to fall in love with him, and who knows, man? He could be an Iron Man football player. I mean, he could be a full-time safety. He could go up and play, your nickel hybrid linebacker role, no problem, and then go be your third down pass catching running back. I mean, that's asks a lot of an NFL athlete, but he could be an Iron Man type of football player where he's playing both sides of the ball. Deion Sanders, kind of guy who does everything and doesn't get tired. But yeah, Sione Vaki, man, an athlete's athlete, a football player, one of the most intriguing. I think that's the thing. He's one of the most intriguing prospects in this entire draft class, and it's gonna be fun to see whoever takes him, man, because you're getting a football player who can play multiple positions.
He's just so fun, man. Like yeah, what you said, that Cal game was his coming out game. He was put in as a Wildcat quarterback, and he was just running past the entire defense. I went to a game at USC, and it was the Utah's backup quarterback. And the first play of the game, he runs a wheel route, runs past the entire USC defense, and I was like, is this guy just an anomaly? Like, what is going on?
Got
Because
this
truly,
weird, like, deceiving speed to him. It's crazy. It's just
so
like,
speedy.
how's he outrunning corners? And he's a big dude. He's 200 plus pounds. He's a big guy, and it's just like this weird, deceiving speed. And you're like, how the hell did he just get that edge and then outrun three corners, for 80 yards? It's ridiculous.
It's insane. Like he had that long wheel route touchdown in that USC game. He had that Texas route that I literally just showed you guys. He had another long rush touchdown, and he was just balling that game. He beat Caleb Williams in USC, and ruined USC's chances at the playoffs. So he's a freak. I'll be honest. Just watching him, he moves different than really any running back I've seen in this class. Really, any running back I've seen. Like just seeing him in person, it was eye opening. It threw me off. Maybe I'm too high on him. Maybe I have a dream on him, but I think a team's going to fall in love with him. It seems like even Jeff Ulbrich, the really smart Jets linebacker coach, fell in love with him in the Senior Bowl. So I love him.
Yeah, he's awesome, man. Again, polarizing player, and wherever he ends up come April, that team gets a football player. Whether you play him at running back, safety, linebacker, nickel, slot receiver, H back. I mean, it's endless. Special teams, kick returner. We'll keep going, man. We'll keep going. But one of the sickest players in this entire draft class, a guy who I think will ultimately end up going late. I think he'll go sometime on day two. I think maybe late second, third round is kind of his area. But yeah, he's a sick football player.
Yeah, just valuable. I do think he'll go day two as well. The team's going to fall in love with his skill set for sure. But let's move on to your RB6, the last guy we'll talk about today.
Last but not least, Mr. Marshawn Lloyd, from the USC Trojans. Really fun back, man. Like I said, all these running backs are 200 plus pounds. They're just big guys. But yeah, Marshawn Lloyd, 5'9", 210 pounds. He's 23 years old. He's a little on the older side. I think he's got elite burst. He's improved every single year at USC in his rushing grades. I think he's very dynamic in the passing game. I think he'd be a great pass catcher. He's just an ultra explosive runner. He's kind of got that deceptively fast speed as well. The production is not crazy. He doesn't have a ton of mileage on him, which I kind of like for being a little bit of an older guy. But 816 yards, 9 touchdowns this year, nothing to write home about. Not crazy in the receiving game, but a guy who I think he meshes really well. I think he'll slide into an NFL team and be an instant contributor. A guy who for dynasty I really like. I think just a really smart football player, one of the smarter running backs in this draft class. But what do you make of Mr. Marshawn Lloyd?
I have a funny pro comp on Marshawn Lloyd. I want to know what you think about it. It's Jerry Judy without that needs glasses. It's blind Jerry Judy.
Blind Jerry.
Because he has insane shiftiness. Like he has a jukebox trait. Like he can juke you out of your shoes and like no space. Like he has the craziest cuts and like short area burst, maybe even in this class. Like he can take any given run of the house. He has that crazy shiftiness. So he does have that like elite short area movement skills. But man, he needs glasses so badly. His vision is the worst I've ever seen. His tape, literally just watching it was making me frustrated. Watching it, months later, like he was making the wrong move almost every single run. He's the
Dan's got like a Najee Harris and a Jerry. Wow. I must have watched some different games. I liked him, but yeah, I mean, I guess he did rely a little bit more on his burst and his athleticism. But yeah, he did make a lot of like wrong decisions on choosing the hole and everything. So I do get that. I do get that.
Yeah, like I would say he had the easiest job in all of college football too, being Caleb Williams running backs. Like as you can imagine, the holes were massive and he did not care. He would just bounce it out to the outside every single time. It was so frustrating. I don't know. It was just my comp for him though is DeAndre Swift. Like I think he's 100%, going to be DeAndre Swift day one in the NFL, which isn't a bad thing. He just got a bag for the Bears. He's he's starting day one for the Bears. So I do think he's going to be that player, but he has those fumble problems. He needs to clean up his drops. He needs to clean up his pass pro. He kind of has those same qualms as DeAndre Swift. So I do think he's that same player. Doesn't have the vision, which is the same knock on DeAndre Swift, kind of why he's on his third team now. But I do think he's going to be a piece. He's a good receiver. He's going to be at the very least a good third down back that has crazy highlight plays because he's
Yes, I mean his elusiveness rating 177, his yards after contact 3.97 is just some of the most. I mean that's where you're banking on the guy. I mean it's the elusiveness, it's the yards after contact, it's the burst, it's all there. But yeah, I can see why teams and if you're cutting up the tape and really getting into it, why you could be irritated because he did, yeah, and he is playing next to Caleb Williams, who's also a threat, which also helped him, and he is a little older. But yeah, I mean it's a crazy running back draft class, man. It's going to be interesting to see who's successful, who's not, come to the next level. But man, these guys are all kind of clumped in with each other, man. I wouldn't say there's really anyone that's that far away in the entire draft class. It feels like. I mean, you can get into throw out some names, Kamade Duvall, and stuff like that, or just kind of like not that far behind, but guys are going to be his 6th round pick, like you said, Ray Davis, who's going to be a late day 3 type of guy. It's just they're all kind of clumped in together. And it's just who's going to be brave enough. And Daniel Jeremiah was even saying at I definitely don't have Marshawn Lloyd is my number 1 running back, but he's my number 6. But Daniel Jeremiah at the combine was saying this guy could very easily be the first running back off the board. So it's kind of you pick your poison here. I think he did test fairly well at the NFL Combine. I think the measurables, I think the speed, the vertical, everything was kind of all there for the guy. But yeah, it's crazy. These running backs are going to be interesting, man. I think scheme and fit and teams where they end up and offensive lines will play a big factor in this. But there's a lot of good ones, but not a lot of we don't got a Bijan Robinson in this class. Sorry to chat my mouth off here, but yeah, we just don't have that Bijan.
Yeah, I think with Marshawn Lloyd, he's going to be drafted pretty high because there's going to be a coach that might have the worst vision in the class, but he has some of the best athleticism, some of the best elusiveness like that you can work with and really mold into someone good. If he's the Dolphin, probably going to be insane. So yeah, definitely depends on the situation with Marshawn. So keep an eye on him.
Wait, Dan, breaking news on the pod.
Oh,
AJ Osborne to the Patriots, baby.
bang,
I got you super excited for nothing.
bang, wide
Absolute,
receiver too.
absolute difference maker out there, man. KJ Osborne, you love to see it. Breaking live on the pod. Also, Snoop Huntley going to the Browns from the Ravens, his division rival. One of the most underrated QB2, QB3, however you value him in the NFL, but you love to see it. You love to see breaking stuff on the pod.
Some big stuff. But moving on to honorable mentions to finish this thing out real quick. I got Frank Gore as my number 10 running back. I really like him. He has an interesting, just like going into his tape was so interesting. He threw 7 touchdowns and a pick at Southern Miss, which was so confusing to me. He had 3 touchdowns as a receiver. Like he just played everything for Southern Miss, I guess, in their 2022 bowl game against Rice. They beat him 38-24. He rushed for 328 yards, which was the FBS Bowl record. And then he rushed for 2 touchdowns and threw for 1 in that game. So yeah, Frank Gore is a freak. I can just like see it with him too in that Shrine Bowl. He balled out. He just looks like he's a good runner. Frank Gore's son, by the way. So I think he's going to be good. He's going to find a home. Audric Estime from Notre Dame. I would say he's the premier power back in this class. I would say he's Gus Edwards, day 1. Just a really good goal line back. So I think Estime is going to find a home. Don't have him in our video just because it's a dynasty rankings. I don't think he is the most
Estimate
dynasty
and
value.
Irving, bro, just had horrible combines, and that's
Yeah.
kind of sad because they're really good running backs, and Bucky Irving especially incredible tape at Oregon, and then he goes to the combine and runs like a 4.78, just one of the worst timing. And for a guy that everyone saw on tape was one of the fastest guys, and so these guys maybe would have made our list, but yeah, they definitely have hurt themselves during this process.
Yeah, and Estimate kind of made sense why he wasn't good in the combine because he's just a massive, huge human, and he was pretty productive. He still had a lot of touchdowns, so I like Estimate. I think he's going to be good as a dynasty piece. I don't think he's too valuable as that goal line piece, but yeah, Bucky Irving was weird. He ended up as my RB 14. I think he's Kenneth Gainwell day one, so take that for what you will. But yeah, I don't really value him too high without those high end trades. And he's not too good as a runner as well. So I think Bucky Irving's just like a Kenneth Gainwell. Cody Schrader's all right. Laub, Shipley. Anyone else you want to talk about?
Well, I just wanted to give like a comp for Frank Gore Jr. It's kind of weird, but like watching his tape, which kind of like a beefier Tariq Cohen. um, that was kind of like my comp for him, and I like Tariq Cohen. I miss Tariq Cohen. He was a cool running back. I wish he would have gotten a little bit more of a playing career, but yeah. One other guy I'll throw out there, Dillon LeBou out of New Hampshire. People are saying he's just like a Danny Woodhead clone. I haven't watched too much of him, but he's interesting. He's intriguing to me.
Yeah, he's at the Senior Bowl. Should be a fun receiving back. Interested to see where he goes. I like Laub as well. But yeah, really fun going over these running backs. A lot that we talked about because I feel like we each had like 6 different running backs on our list. Like you said, they are kind of bunched in. It's really hard to rank all these guys, and we kind of just had to tier them up. But yeah, really fun. I think that a few of these guys will be really impactful in fantasy, especially in your guys' dynasty drafts. And I think Jonathan Brooks should be the most valuable one. Anything else you want to say?
Well, I better give an exit hot take. Blake Corum to the Panthers, baby. Blake Corum to the Panthers. Their freaking first pick in the second round. Just kidding. Not that high. But maybe one of these guys is going to be a Panther because I kind of forgot, man. They're desperate for running back. I mean, can't roll out with a Chuba Hubbard and freaking I can't
Yeah.
even they're yeah,
I was
they're
listening to a Panthers podcast, and they have that perfect offensive line now, and they were saying that Chuba is going to run behind it and be like all good. I'm like, I don't want that. I want him to be the second guy.
give the Panthers, the worst team in the NFL, you know, absolute wackadoodle of an owner. Give him a good running back, man. Maybe give them Braelon Allen behind that beefy offensive line, that revamped offensive line, and take the pressure off of Bryce Young a little bit.
Yeah, honestly, any of these running backs I think would be awesome for the Panthers. You get Jonathan Brooks in there, you could start Chuba for a few weeks until he's in there. I love it. So yeah, really fun episode. Stay tuned to the NFL Seekers podcast for all the offseason content, more draft rankings, more mock drafts, more free agency grades coming out. So stay tuned. Like, subscribe, comment. Peace.
Peace.